And here we are, one of the UK's finest, Miss Levi Steedman. How you doing? You all right? Hey, how you
I'm
doing?
good.
You all right? Get words out. Good
I'm
start.
good, thanks. How are you?
Starting strong. I'm very well. I'm very well. So, quite a few of your teammates were competing on cage rules at the weekend.
Mhm.
Cartwright and Miller. Initial initial thoughts on that?
I mean, to be honest, when I watched it, I was a little bit drunk, so I wasn't really taking everything in. And then I watched it again the next day, and I knew obviously it was bad anyway, like from what I watched the night before. But I just thought it was insane how everything was just going. Like I was like, is this actually real? I was thinking, have I fell asleep when I was drunk, and like now I've imagined that this has happened. And but to be honest, I didn't think that Jack looked normal, like I didn't think he was on his how he usually is, but still I genuinely do think that, like he said in his Facebook post, that he was doing the damaging shots on the feet, all that guy was doing. I think how MMA scored now is slightly different, isn't it? Like you need to be, once you've got the takedown, you need to do something with it instead of just like lying guard. um, and obviously the only damaging shots that Miller did was the headbutts. And on the first one, like I said, I put it on my Facebook post, was that, all right, fair enough, things can happen like that. You could accidentally headbutt and you get a warning and whatever. And then the second time it happened, I was like, this is a bit dodgy. And he got it. Is his point taken on the second headbutt, or was it the third?
I think first was a warning, second was a point, third was another point, I think.
And then Rich said after that, didn't he, like, one more and you'll get disqualified. But then he done it again and he didn't DQ him. And then on the fourth time he did DQ him. So I was just like, I don't really know what's going on. But yeah, it's quite sad. I was a bit disappointed because obviously Jack should be in the UFC, and I thought this fight, would definitely secure him going over there. And it looks like now that they want them to rematch. But in my opinion, if he's cheated, he shouldn't even get a rematch. It's not like he accidentally eye poked him or something like that. You think, oh shit, we'll do it again. It's he deliberately headbutted him 4 times, or however many times it was. So I don't think he deserves the title shot again, in my personal opinion.
100%, because this is where obviously like accidental eye pokes, these things happen again, a bit of a slip of the glove, sort of a weird sort of framing position, again, those things can happen. But with the headbutts, it was really strange because almost the way you put your weight over your ground and pound seemed to be where that headbutt was coming from. But even then, like, if it's causing a headbutt, you need to change something there regardless. So
I think as well, like I was thinking about this. I was thinking, like, I would like to do commentary, later on in my career, and or get involved in MMA, in the kind of like what Dominic Cruz was, like break down things and stuff. And I was just thinking about it, like if I was a non-biased person, like if I didn't know Jack, and really thinking about it, if you're trying to get some talk on your ground and pound, you usually take your head off the center line, because if you think about, like, you don't sorry, my alarm's going off, tell me to get up, that's not good. When you kind of like salute, so you'd like turn and hit to bring the elbow down. You wouldn't throw your head into a shot like that. It's always, you'd come off the center line. So if he's saying that he's throwing an elbow and his head at the same time to get some weight down into it, I honestly think that's a little shit, to be honest, because nobody throws a shot like that. Like, and people, like they say, it's not cheating until you get caught, is it? Like that's what a lot of people are saying. He's probably trying to get away with it. But in my opinion, he knew exactly what he was doing, and I don't think the language barrier made a difference either. You don't headbutt. It's one of the it's one of the main rules. You don't headbutt, and you don't knee people in the head. But at the moment, everybody's kneeing people in the head on the floor and poking eyes out. It's 2021's crazy already.
I mean, there's a few things in that as well, because similar things, again, what you're saying there with the ground and pound, like we said about coming off center. But what, similar to how you throw elbows and that sort of pro level on the ground and pound, is you sort of frame to make some space and then collapse and sort of drop the elbow. And this is almost what's happening with the headbutts, again, sort of framing up and then dropping with the headbutt. Because albeit one with the ground and pound's one thing, but again, framing a little bit to sort of get these little headbutts in. Because as much as they seem quite trivial, not necessarily fight ending, a cut from that is enough to stop a fight.
That's
And that's the difference. That's champion. That's not even just a championship. Again, sounds very flippant. If Jack lost the belt due to a cut, that's him out of the championship question. Is that him out of the UFC conversation, albeit for a fight or two, but that's still his career, still his livelihood. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's it. And I think it's a really hard decision, especially for referees these days, because, like you say, there was another fight on. It was last night, I think it was, with Liam Gittins when he got stopped straight away. And it's like there's got to be a fine line between stopping it early and stopping it too late. And I think that's really hard for a ref. I wouldn't want to be a ref 100%, because it's people's lives that you're almost ruining. Because like you say, if you're a 5-1 or a 5-0 guy and you're in the Cage Warriors and you're coming up and you're a prospect, and all of a sudden you've got a TKO loss on your record, people look at that. People are really petty and be like, you got finished in his last fight, but then they don't go and watch it. So it's quite a hard situation. But I think to be honest, I think Jack's had a hard ride with Cage Warriors, because I think he's the only guy to ever like keep holding a belt this long and not get the call up. Like Jack Shaw, albeit he's really good. Like he defended it, was it once or twice, and then he got the call straight away. And Jack continually finishes people. Like I think Jack Shaw's had some decisions as well. And same with Nathaniel Wood. Yeah, he was finishing people, but he's not doing these one-shot knockouts the way Jack did, and he's not got the call up. So I just feel like it's a bit tight, but we'll see where that goes for him.
I mean, again, it's hard to appreciate whilst it's all going on, but in retrospect, we'll see how his career in the UFC goes later on. It might be the right decision, might not be, because again, like prime example, Reece McKee got the call not too long ago, and then he got Hamzat in a week's notice. So
yeah.
So again, you don't know, give floors in the mouth, I guess, to an extent. Like, get careful what you wish for.
Yeah, that's true. But I think, like you say, I think Jack deserves to actually be signed and not, jump in on a last minute thing. He's a world champion at the end of the day, and he's done a lot. Won the belt, knocking 2 people, out in the same night in under like 3 minutes, was it? And then continued to defend it from there. So, but at least he gets to keep the belt now. That's good. That's one thing.
100%. And again, where you get his sort of showing his well-roundedness. But anyway, this conversation isn't necessarily about him; it's about you. This is what.
Yeah, that's right. See, I go off on a tangent sometimes with things and what I'm passionate about.
No, it's good though. Again, there's something in that I liked a lot. How you're being aware of the sort of commentary, again, the idiosyncrasies, and again, the bigger picture with this. When you're having your own fights, are you thinking about how the refs are going to score certain things, how things are going on? Are you just in the mindset of the fight? Is its own thing?
Yeah, I think as my career went along with my amateur career, obviously, I started to realise that it's not just about, going out there being aggressive, trying to find a finish. You need to win those little bits in between. And I think that's what I wasn't doing. So I was always trying to find like the big shots or like a big takedown and keep them there. And obviously it worked because I've got 4, TKOs on my record. But as my career went along, like I'm starting to really understand now, especially watching so much and going to corner people as well, like with my coach Matt. Really understanding what the refs looking for and what the judges are looking for, and I think that only comes with like time. I don't think you're this amazing like MMA fighter to start off with. That's why you have your amateur career to kind of develop those things that you need to do. And I think this last year and a bit, that we haven't been competing, I've learned so much, like just through training myself, like my progression in the gym. And my understanding has grown like tenfold. So I am quite excited to get back in there and see what I can do, really.
Because with that, there's a lot more of the awareness. Because as much as you have your own biases and your own sort of preferences, we get so wrapped up in our own sort of, this is how I do certain things. But again, if you've got that neutral kind of like a matter of fact, this is how I see fights being scored. This is what needs to be done from fighter A to beat fighter B. Not even this is what I always do sort of thing. I like how you've got that kind of separate perspective on it, especially with Matt as well. That kind of, again, the dream team there. Now, regards of getting more out of your, being more coachable and understanding more, what is sort of, I don't know, giving you that kick to really push that side of things? Have you always been quite coachable and always been one to sort of soak up the knowledge?
Yeah, because like ever since like a really young age, I've always been involved in sport. Like I've always understood. And it's funny because I was looking at I was trying to find a photo, and we've got loads of stuff like that my mum saved from when I was a kid. And I was just reading reports from when I was younger, and I've always been very, very like sport minded, like even from a very young age. And all the reports always say like Levi really understands, the rules within a sport, and the fact that she knows how to play it well, and everything that I just took on really well. And I think it's just like that type of physical like athleticism I've just taken it with me. Like, I'm a visual learner, so Matt will show something and like, right, I'll get it, and then we'll go off from there. Like there's no point of you explaining to me what I need to do. I need to see it. And that's what Matt's really good at as well. Like obviously you spoke to him before, like the way he coaches is very alive. Like we really get hands on with our training. And I think as well, like being a coach, because I coach as well. Like obviously when the gym was open, I coached the beginners kickboxing, excuse me, and also the kids as well. And and female jiu-jitsu classes. So like again with that, like the more you do with that, the more obviously you take on yourself. And I think as a coach, you need to be quite coachable too, so you can adapt your coaching style and obviously pass on the the information from there.
I like, again, there's so much in that. I don't think you realize how good most of that stuff you're saying there is. But one thing I want to go into is being a very visual person, very visual learner. Do you give a lot of, I don't know, time to visualizing your fights and visualizing what's going on in the same kind of vein?
Yeah, like sometimes it's really annoying because it's the only thing I ever think about. Like I would literally say I'm watching, like last night I was watching obviously the main event, and I'm watching it, but then all of a sudden like I'm kind of glazed over because I'm thinking about what I would be doing in that situation, or I'm thinking about what the judges would have scored at that point, and thinking like what he's, like say when Vucenic was against the fence and he's really trying to like work off, but how calm he was staying and things like that. And I always like put myself into that position and kind of think about what I would do from there. And it's a little bit of a burden sometimes because I'm always like drowning out, I could be watching TV or my mum could be talking to me, and then she's like, "Did you hear that?" And I'm like, "Oh," and then I'm actually thinking about MMA, which sounds sad, but it literally is the only thing that I think about. Yeah.
But again, it's having that kind of understanding, that kind of passion. Because when people say that sort of thing, again, as much as you're saying it's a bit sad, you wouldn't change that for the world. Let's be honest. Let's not pretend like, oh, you're embarrassed about it.
No, I'm not really. And it's just one of those things that and it makes me it kind of comforts me thinking this is what I want to do. Like some people, like I don't know how to explain it. Like they like the idea of fighting and they like the idea of winning, but they don't think about everything in between. Like it's not their only thing that they think about. And it really is like I could be, watching, like say, watching Cage Warriors. I watch all MMA. Like it doesn't matter what it is. If it's on TV, I'll be watching it. If it's on Fight Pass, I'll be putting it on and tuning in. And UFC as well, obviously. And just thinking about because I had a sports psychologist for a while. I don't have him now, but I had a sports psychologist for a while after I lost a decision in one of the IMAF championships. And it was just everything, like the visualization that I do now. Like I always visualize because I do want to fight on Cage Warriors. I've been very, very, very open about it in like other interviews and Facebook and Instagram and stuff like that. And I always imagine like the walkout, getting the grease on, like getting into the cage, because I've been in the Cage Warriors cage before, and I just feel like super comfortable, with that whole process. So that's why like I really do want to get on there because I feel like I've already done it a million times over in my head, and it'd just be so comfortable to step in there again.
I mean, Cage was certainly drew mine as well, and to have that kind of, again, it's a weird thing to sort of explain to people, but having the feel of the cage itself, having the smell, having all that kind of walkthrough, that must make the pro realization so much more like, okay, this is actually, this is here. This isn't too far away. That must be so exciting.
Yeah, and it is because I think the fight that I had in Birmingham, it was an amateur fight, but it was like my 5th fight or something. I can't remember what it was, and it was the full size cage. Obviously, in Cage Warriors, it was Cage Warriors like 180 something. I can't remember. 108 or something like that. I can't remember. And you don't forget that. You don't forget like the feeling of the cage, like the way it bounces, the weight of the the fence behind you, like the lights, how it feels, how cold it is, and things like that, and backstage and everything like that. So when you've experienced it, I think that's really good because you can kind of take that with you. Like those experiences stay with you, and I think that's the point of having like an extensive amateur career, is to already get the nerves out, understand the walkouts, understand you've got to be waiting around, understand that you might be on sooner than you actually think, so you've got to be ready. You can take that into your pro career. So that's the stuff that I'm hanging on to at the moment. It's been so long since I've had a fight, because I used to fight, like looking at my tapology, it was like every 3 months, sometimes 2 months. And obviously a lot of fights, got cancelled as well. So that's another massive hurdle that gets put in there. But it's all part of it, and it's all really exciting. So I can't wait to carry on, where I left from.
Well, where there's a few things with this get quite interesting is the frequency, then the time off, and that time back on, and then how you then, I don't know, implement what you've now learned and how your new mindset as such. Because again, from each fight you mature to a certain extent. And again, you have to answer a lot of questions in the preparation point. So how will your next camp compare to your previous one, do you reckon, with regards to things being different?
I feel like, and this is gonna be like super cliche because everyone during lockdown is probably going to say this, but like I think that this last year has been like a massive training camp for me, because obviously I've been lucky enough to be able to train, and I feel like I've not been, this is a really good thing for me, because yeah, it's amazing that I fought every couple of months, and that's great, but I think you do need some time in between to actually progress. And I think that's what was happening, was I was almost winning by instinct, like not necessarily that I was progressing. I think I was, from the last couple of fights, like, right, got a TKO then, like, and then I'm going out, I'm just going to finish her, and I'm going out, I'm just going to finish her. That's what was just in my head. Like, I just got to go out, I've got to be aggressive, I've got to finish him. But that doesn't always work. And then I thought to myself, I need some time to work on my game. What is it that I want to do when I go out there? Like, I don't want to just do it out, on a limb. I want to actually not have a game plan, but have some, like, when you have, say for example, just going back to Jack, because it's the only person I can think of at the moment, he's going to knock you, he wants to knock you out, and there's no way you can stop it. He's still going to try and do it. I want people to almost think that about me, but I still want to be an all-rounded fighter. Like, I want them to go, oh, really panic about me, like, oh, she really wants to do a body kick, she does the body kick loads, but then next minute I take him down and I do something else. So I just wanted to develop that IQ, and that's what I've done. I've been working obviously with Matt Inman, clear as day how good of a coach he is, everything that he's done for our fighters. But also Abdul Chowdhury, he was there cornering as well, Manny Akpan, over the weekend, and he's a really excellent boxing coach, and he's really worked on my footwork and just my general IQ. Like, yeah, it's good at throwing. Like, I was saying this the other day, I was speaking to, I think it was my dad, I was saying, like, anyone can throw a punch, like anyone can hit hard. If you hit someone hard enough, you're going to knock them out, like if it's on the right part of the face or the head. But it's actually being able to get in there, hit, and move back out without getting hit. Like, that's what I'm trying to do, is work on being able to fight so efficiently and not get hit or not be taken down, or that's what I've been working on. And even in sparring, one of my main training partners is Jake Bond, who signed to Cage Warriors as well. He's got like really good wrestling, good striking, and I wrestle with him, I wrestle with Abdul, I wrestle with these really, really good, strong guys, and I'm holding my own. I'm taking them down, or I'm not getting taken down. And 6 months ago, well, 10 months ago, I was taken down all the time. It was super easy to, well, not super easy, but I didn't have that level of fighting IQ to stop them taking me down. Whereas now I'm proving very difficult to take down, and my offense and defense is getting so much better. So that's the way I've been figuring out how good I'm progressing. Because obviously I've not had a fight to figure that out, like how good I've been doing, but I've been measuring my progress on how good my sparring has been, how good my wall rounds have been. I'm not being kept on the wall anymore. That was no secret. I did get in some of my fights pinned against the wall, and they were just trying to keep me there because obviously my striking. But now I'm not. So it's like, I can't wait to show that in a fight. Like, take me against the wall, I'm going to get off, and then it's going to, I'm going to punish you for that after that. So it's quite exciting, actually. I am excited to see how much this is going to translate into an actual fight.
Now, again, there's so much in that. Where do we even start? The thing I love is the awareness, because again, when you have like fight ending power or some sort of part of your game that's so clear as day, okay, I don't know, I don't need to be told this is going to happen, this is what's going to happen. Like, same with Cartwright, for example, with the knockout power, you're like, okay, but the awareness that that's not enough, and also building around it, because again, you get the whole, like, the cliche days of striker versus grappler kind of things.
Yeah.
See it almost with Clocky T and Mike Figler, that sort of thing. But again, having that more well-rounded sort of style, that it's okay. Yes, I can knock you out whenever I want, that, but have fun trying to take me down. Have fun if you get me down, what's going to happen then, and so on and so forth. It's the layers of your ability, and on top of that, anyway, it's just exciting having that kind of, I don't know, the understanding separate to you in itself. You see what I mean? Because it's weird one to articulate the fact your analysis and understanding of what is important, what's going to get scored, versus what you're developing versus how you're going to do it. And again, the urgency, because you'll see a lot of people, for anyone who's not familiar with this, is when you see for grappling competitions, you'll see rule set change, you'll see styles change, you'll see people prioritize certain things, and the whole thing evolves as a result of that. And seeing your awareness and seeing your development in general, I guess it's really fucking exciting. Like, have you got an event roughly you're going to come back for in time?
I mean, I don't know. Obviously, Matt's my manager at the moment, so he's looking for fights, and it just seems like there's nothing, like nobody's really looking for a flyweight, debut. I don't know what it is. Obviously COVID's making it a massive challenge. There's not that many promotions that are putting on big fights, obviously, that are doing the testing and stuff, because I'm assuming that's, you know, a big thing that has to happen. But I was ready, you know, last year. I'm obviously happy that I've had this opportunity to keep on training and keep on progressing, but I kind of want June time would be nice to come back, because I'm a little bit heavier at the moment. I'm kind of, that's another thing that I've done as well, is like I've filled out into like a flyweight frame. Like I used to come in, you know, weigh in, and then the next day I'd be the same weight. I wouldn't barely put any weight back on. And, you know, because I was quite a small, I had a decent like size frame, like I had a flyweight frame, but I wasn't feeling it. Whereas now I'm walking around a lot heavier. Not saying I want to cut loads of weight, because I hate cutting weight anyway, but that's just one of those things that I thought I need to build, you know, my strength and conditioning, put some muscle on as well. And that's showing, you know, that's working as well, because I'm a lot stronger in training. I'm not getting like, you know, dragged around and out muscled. Like I'm still able to keep up with these guys. And so I would need, you know, not loads of time, but I would need a couple of weeks to get my weight back down. And I've got a good nutritionist as well, Beth Packman. So she knows what she's doing. You know, I'm in good hands, but I wouldn't want to get like, you know, next week you need to fly out somewhere, and I don't want to cut loads of weight in one go, especially for a pro debut. Like I'm being really smart about things. I don't want to, you know, jeopardize my pro career by going, oh, because I do want to fight. Like you know, I hate when people are forced into taking last minute fights to show that they're not a pussy. Like, oh, I need a full camp. Nobody has a camp at SBG. We train every single day. Like there's not like, nobody goes, oh, I'm not coming in for a month until I get a fight and then I'll do an 8-week camp. Like everybody's training every single day. Like it is like they've got a fight next week. So it's not like you know, need loads of time to get ready. It's just obviously the weight thing. But yeah, June would be a really good time. Like I'm 24. I wrote in my diary years ago that I want to have a pro win before I'm 25, and I'm 25 in August. So I want to get it done before I'm 25.
In the words of the great Chael Sonnen, was it camps are for kids and I'm a man, I train every day of my day of my life or something like that. But again, I think it's horse for course. Some people, you get the annoying people who get fat, come back, they train, they look phenomenal, and then they just go back to getting fat again. I don't know how they get away with it. That's their business. They can crack on doing that. That's their career limited. With your camp for this, so say I don't know, Battle Arena in July or whatever event you want to choose. How does your pro fight camp per se change to your standard AMI camp? Because I can't help the tendency, especially with the way you're articulating things, you're understanding it. It seems like there's a temptation to overcomplicate things and again put all the stress on it to try and make it so much refined. Like, what's your sort of mindset with that kind of thing?
I think it's exactly the same. It's just being more aware of what tools you can use and well, not even necessarily what tools you can use, what's going to come back at you. So like when I've been in positions in wrestling or when we're against the cage or whatever, I'm thinking, right, I can't be stupid and duck down for, you know, for your leg because you're going to knee me in the face. Like we don't do that. We don't knee each other in the head or elbow in sparring, obviously, because it's dangerous. But we do, you know, if we're in the clinch, like they'll show that the elbows there, they'll put it on your head or whatever, or go to knee you in the face and things like that. That's the only slight change. But I'm not overcomplicating that, because I think what you see, especially on pro debuts, is like they want to throw so many elbows. And they'll start going crazy with elbows, and it's like not hitting where it's supposed to hit and hitting forearms and things like that. Just not overcomplicating it, you know, getting the 5-minute rounds in, making sure that you can go for that long. I actually prefer the 5-minute rounds because, you know, it's no secret as well, like it takes me a little bit to kind of, unless one of my fights I did come out and just whack her and take her down and you know, TKO her in like the first minute or something, but I do like to take my time a little bit and get going. And I think those 5-minute rounds help. You know, you can pace yourself a little bit more. So although it's like, oh my God, it's 2 minutes extra, but you've also got 2 minutes extra to work. You know, get your range and getting switch on. You know, you've got more time to work. So that's the only thing that's changed, is the fact that in fact, when I was amateur, we still actually did 5-minute rounds. Like Matt would put 5-minute rounds on sometimes, like 3-minute rounds, and then obviously 5-minute rounds just to annoy us, to make us work a little bit more. But yeah, it's not, that's the only thing really that's changed, because everything else is the same. Like we all of the amateurs and all of the pros, we all do work professionally. Like we all train professionally. It's not, you know, we don't come in one day and train and then don't come in for another week and a half and then train. It's, you know, it's consistent, and that's the main thing, I think, is just being consistent with your training.
Jake Cross, the guy who runs Empire Grappling and a few other events, he's got a term for that, and I love it. It's some professional amateurs like yourself, people who are classed as amateur, but you see your schedule, compare it to a pro, and you tell me the difference. And this is the point. This is what the amateur career is for. And I like how a way you answer that question. I think better than you might have realized how well you've answered that. That again, I'm sort of saying about the temptation to overcomplicate things, the temptation to add all these bells and whistles because it's a new platform, everything else. But again, it's you already know what you need to do. There's pros being produced where you're already being produced.
Yeah.
And again, it's just reminding, okay, this is the modifications to make, but carry on as normal. Because it sounds very much, oh shit, I need to do everything else. I need to make sure I'm not eating anything that casts a shadow, all this sort of stuff. But again, to have that bit more, okay. I think Matt Abrams got maybe a bit of an idea how to make me pro. Maybe I think he's got just. I'll go on a hunch. I think he knows what he's on about.
Yeah.
Don't quote me on that.
Yeah, no, it's true, and that's it. He's, you know, he's obviously got the formula because he's, you know, he's had however many fights he's had at a professional level, and all these different people that he's coaching through, you know, world title as well. You know, really good prospects like Manny Akpan at the weekend. You see what
big finish, big finish,
crazy finish. But that's the thing. Like we're not. It just shows that at SBG, like we're not just one-sided fighters. You know, like it's not, we're not strikers, or we're not just grapplers, or we're not. You know, we do everything. And everyone, like I had so many people message me like, wow, where did that come from with Manny? And I'm like, that's what he does. Like, you know, he does that in training. He does that. That's his style. He's not, you know, he might come out and try and take you down, or he might, like he did, weirdly pull guard. But you know, we've all got different ways of putting you away, and that's what, you know, Jack said in his post-fight interview. Get all these SBG Manchester guys on the cards, because we've all got these, you know, unique fighting styles and different ways to finish fights. You know, we're trying to be not different. Like I always say, I want to be entertaining. Like I want people to go, oh, like Levi's fighting next, like you don't know how she's going to win. That's what I want to be. You know, a mixed martial artist, not you know, one-rounded fighter, one-sided fighter, like, you know, with one actual thing that you do. And but that's it. Like I think in all of my other fights as well, you know, from start to finish, is like I don't do the same thing in each fight. Like if my first fight was against a grappler, and obviously I kept it standing because I wasn't really, she was a purple belt, I think, and I think I only just got my blue belt, so I was quite fresh in grappling. And then I was like, right, well, I'm obviously not going to let it go to the floor. I'm just going to keep it standing. So it's like working things like that. And then my next fight was slightly different. Next fight slightly different. So it's, and then all of a sudden I was getting massive double legs, and, you know, and dropping people in fights. So it's like, shit, they can wrestle as well. So I think that's the perfect balance, is being able to just do everything and kind of surprise on it. Like Piotr Jan, perfect example. He can knock you out, he'll take you down, he'll sub you, he'll do, you know, his mint wrestling. And that's someone who I wouldn't want to fight if I was a bantamweight male, for sure.
Especially if you're on one knee, and you know he's not going to hold any mercy.
Exactly.
But again, there's a lot in this I want to go into a bit more. And again, what you're saying now has a lot of weight, because again, the perspective of what you've been through, what you want to go to, again, the understanding of the bigger picture, that you aren't quote unquote SBG fighter, you're your own person. And again, you're not going to be one size fits all. This isn't see me, expect this. No, it's developing. There's going to be scenarios. I'm going to adapt to that scenario. And the temptation for a lot of people is, okay, I've done A worked. I don't need B or C. Let's not worry about even D. And again, it's having that bigger perspective. And when it came to starting your amateur career, was pro always in the vision, in the sort of at some point?
Yeah, I think, like I said, from a young age, like I knew I would be a professional in some form of like sport. I just didn't know at the time, and it's kind of like, you know, trial and error with these different things. You know, I was a footballer for a long time, a pretty good one as well. Could have definitely been a professional footballer, but obviously that's, you know, that ship sailed. But it's almost like everything happens for a reason. Like I grew up with two brothers, and we've always been like fighting and messing about, and that's kind of not prepared me to be a fighter, because that just sounds silly. But the fact that I've had to, you know, get that toughness about me, and the fact that I have to, you know, fighting my two older brothers, and, you know, stupid little fights in the street when I was a kid, and things like that, you know, thinking that you're really tough when you're about 11. And then I really, yeah, and then I used to watch boxing a lot. I used to watch, MMA, like EFC, the South African one was always on my TV, like Freeview. And it was something that I always wanted to do. And I remember this is quite a funny story, because my uncle was like always a really annoying character, and he always just like annoy me, like my mum's brother. And one day he was annoying me, and I just hit him. And I was like 12, and I just like chinned him, and he was like really shocked. And then he said to my mum, he was like, "You should go and take her somewhere. Like, you should put her at like boxing or something like this." And that kind of stuck with me for a while. And I was like, I probably would like to do that. I could. And as growing up, like I said, I was very aware of like how my body works. Like, I could throw punches, I could kick, I could, do all these different things. I did gymnastics as well, so I was always wanting to do something with my body. And then obviously once I found MMA, I was like, right, this is what I want to do. This is definitely what I want to do. And as soon as I had like my first amateur fight, I was like, I want to, this is what I want to do for as long as my body, will let you. I won't say the rest of my life, because obviously that's not possible. And yeah, just go throughout the amateur career, and that, pro was definitely always there. But there was one thing that I've been speaking about recently, especially to my brother, is that people, you're supposed to take your pro career very seriously, but when you hear a lot of people, like when they're having a pro debut, or they have one fight, saying Cage Warriors, and they go, "I'm coming for that belt," and you think, okay, like that's cool, like that's what it's good to have, like a an end goal, but that's all you're focusing on. You need to get through these other fights. You need to earn that shot. And I think people are way too hung up on getting a belt straight away, that they're not even understanding they need to progress, and they need to get these fights out of the way. So I'm, like I said, going back to what I was saying before, I'm going to take it very seriously, but take my time with it. I don't need to rush and call out for belts or anything. I just think it sounds stupid, to be honest. That's what I want, but let it come. Yeah.
I mean, this is always that sort of catch-22 sort of thing, that you don't ask, you don't get, but also you want to earn your place there. Like, again, if you were offered like a Cage Warriors title tomorrow, you wouldn't be like, "Oh no, I'm gonna wait." You think,
yeah, like you would obviously
you wouldn't sniff it too much, would you?
Yeah, I mean, well, I probably would say no, obviously, at this point, because I've not even had a pro fight yet, and I can't even call myself a pro fighter without a pro fight. But it's like you say, it's just being intelligent with what you're asking for. Like, you wouldn't, like, Christian Leroy Duncan at the weekend, who fought, and he was saying that his career so far has been an apprenticeship, and now he's on the job properly now, and that's how I see it, is that you just need to keep paddling along, and then prove what you can do, and then obviously scream for a title shot.
Now, what did you think to that stoppage out of interest? I've heard mixed opinions. I'd like to hear yours on that.
I think, yeah, I understand, because it's like you can't stay, even if you're not hurt, you can't stay in a position for that long and take that many shots especially to the temples, because you see that a lot, with elbows, like when people are on single leg and they're getting hit, and it's only one away from them obviously collapsing to the floor and being knocked out. And I think it was the sheer force of him being knocked down with the knee, and then quite early in the careers, I don't think the referees want these guys to end up with significant brain damage taking knees like that. And then especially those shots that he was doing was like hammer fist, but also like the knuckles was hitting him on the temples as well. So it's like he should have just let go of the leg, and then even gone back to his guard or something like that. Like, although it was a bad position, but at least it shows he's still there, instead of people have been knocked out and still stayed on the leg. So I kind of understand why you jumped in on that. And I also don't think they should rematch. I feel like it's just so early in the careers that they don't need to start rematching people at this point. Let them go off, progress, and then come back again if they want it. It's just, I think it just holds people up when you've got to focus now on the same guy, and then they're not furthering the progression in the promotion. But what do I know? I'm not I'm not a matchmaker or a professional judge, so.
No, but like the way you sort of explain that as well, especially when it comes to rematches, because outside of ego, there's no real point of that. If it was controversial in the sense of like an eye poke or something unintentional end of the fight, where there's some sort of ambiguity, but again, it's yes, people say we'll have that double leg and carried on and be fine, but what do you finish a takedown if Christian left it? Because again, what was happening there was, which I didn't even realize till Jack Mason flagged it, was as much as Will was recovering, that double leg wouldn't have been finished if the fight hadn't been stopped.
Yeah.
So you see literally Christian put his arms up his one, then he gets taken down. And then they're shouting, "Why have you stopped? He's got a double leg," saying, "Well, he doesn't."
Yeah. you don't know, because obviously it got stopped, but at the same time, like I said, this referee's job is so hard. Like if he carried on and next minute Christian's dropped a massive elbow on his temple and he's knocked out cold for 5 minutes, everyone would be like, why didn't he jump in? And it's like, you can't. It's super hard on these referees, because they, like you say, they've got this massive responsibility. It's like, do I give him brain damage, or do I make him upset, but he goes on, forgets about it, and he comes back again, and he gets back on his win streak. I obviously wouldn't want to. Every fight is the same. We all go like, oh, I'd rather die than get an easy early stoppage. But
no, you wouldn't. No, you wouldn't.
Really wouldn't. Especially like you say, that because it wasn't for anything. Like, yeah, 2 prospects, I understand that, but it's not like it was for the belt and give them a chance, to get back up to the feet, because this is a massive life-changing thing. We'll be back. He's not hurt. He'll dust himself off and he'll come back again. So it'd be interesting to see what he does next.
Now, with that, there's a last little sort of soundbite to sort of leave it on. If you can complain, it's a good thing. It means you're in a position where you're able to. Full stop. You crack on, complain as much as you like. It means you're able to. It means you got your health.
Yeah.
Like if you didn't have your health, maybe have a word with Dan overhead through whatever device you need to use at that point. But
exactly, that's it.
So regards of yourself, and I don't know, one thing with this is when you've been training something for such a long amount of time, you realize how much stuff you actually do now versus what you started with. Again, like trimming the fat, as a way I sort of articulate this. What does a fight camp look like now opposed to what it used to look like? What sort of things have you cut out you felt weren't really don't tend to convert a lot?
So other little things, like I've just been thinking about my overall body as well. So when I obviously my first amateur fights and things like that, is I wasn't really recovering properly as well. So I was kind of training, coming home thinking, oh my God, my back's killing me, this is killing me, blah, blah, blah. And then complaining about that. And then the next day I can't throw a head kick properly because my hips are sore. And I kind of tackled that. Like, it's the little things, like I say, the training camp has always been very professional. Like the way everything's set out, Matt's very, very, regimental with what we're doing. He plans all his sessions in advance. Everything's tailored towards, wrestling for MMA, jiu-jitsu for MMA, striking for MMA. That's all fine. That doesn't really change. But like I said, it's me personally is what has changed. So I've got a physiotherapist now. I've got a strength and conditioning coach, and all those things make a massive difference. Like, although I do like strength and conditioning twice a week. At the time, obviously, when everything was open, I was seeing my physio every week, and he was like tuning, obviously, all my back, all my muscles, legs, and everything. And that makes such a massive difference, because you think you could train as hard as you want today, but then the next day you can't get out of bed because you're absolutely wrecked. You've missed a day of training. So that's what I noticed was my worst thing, was that I wasn't feeling right for training the next day. And obviously the strength and conditioning goes hand in hand with that, because obviously you training, it's not, my strength and conditioning coach doesn't just go like, right, you're squatting 100 kilo today and you're doing this, you're doing a jump and all this stuff. He focused on all the little stuff as well. So like, obviously my rotator cuffs, all these different things, my abs, like core, trunk, because that's all the little things that get injured. And then I can't, so for example, wrestling and you're getting overextended, the little muscles in your shoulders, although you might be able to military press, 60 kg, but then you can't fucking do like little small movements with a dumbbell. It's those little things that are going to be able to, keep you wrestling. So that's a massive thing. So now, like when I'm wrestling, when people are sprawling on me, I'm not in pain anymore because I'm strong enough to suck the leg back in and get out to the other side or whatever. So that's basically what I've changed, is my physical ability. So obviously my recovery and like my strength, because I love that saying that they say in jiu-jitsu, like it's for the small person. You don't need to be strong, but if skills are matched, you do need to be strong. Like you do need to be strong. Like I could go with, say, one of the 70 kilo lads. I'm like 63 at the moment, and it might be really, say he's not even as good, say he's a white belt, but if he's strong as hell, he's gonna make my life difficult. I'm a female. I'm not a man. Like there's a massive difference between that. So me getting physically stronger has helped me tenfold throughout, my wrestling, jiu-jitsu, punch power, things like that. So that's the main thing. Although it took me 10 minutes to explain that, I could have just said strength and conditioning.
but that's the point. That's exactly the point, though. If you say strength and conditioning, that could be anything.
Yeah.
And the reason it would benefit you could be anything. The fact you've said the specific instances, and that's why it's important. This is what the question is about, and this is why I'm glad you answered the way you did. And now, when it comes to strength and conditioning in that format, is it just the collective sessions in themselves that make the biggest difference? Are you doing like rehab, like pre and post training? What's your
So he's
essentially
really good.
influence?
He's called Matt Lear, so he's total sports rehab, and it's good because he's also a physio. So he's been, I think it's like 15 years or 18 years, I can't remember exactly, but he does obviously strength and conditioning, but physiotherapy at the same time. So he knows what you'd be injuring and how to stop that from happening, and then also exactly what you're using in this strength and conditioning, session. So it'll do a lot of like obviously the big lifts like deadlift, squat, pressing, but also the accessory stuff as well in between that strengthens everything else. And he knows like, punchy power, use a lot of your trunk, you use your shoulders, your traps, knowing, what needs to be strong. So I hate when you see, strength and conditioning where they're just like getting you to squat all the time and you think, well, yeah, squats obviously really good, like good power, obviously pressing and things, but it's the little things in between that's made an absolute massive difference. Because like I said, you could be as strong as hell, but as soon as a little, the little supportive muscles get injured, you're not going to be able to do everything. And you'll see that like, big power lifters, and they'll go, oh, like my pec's torn because my fucking whatever in my shoulders imbalanced. So that's what I don't want to do, because before that I was getting sprawled and then bits of my back was hurting, like my rib. I had an injury where the guy basically said like my rib has come away from my back, like at the back. And I did fight with that as well. Like my back was all strapped up, like I've got pictures of like all these different tapes across my back, like pulling my fucking rib back in. And it's funny because I didn't wrestle for like 4 weeks leading up to the fight, and then I won by taking her down. and then I got a TKO on the floor, so it's just quite funny. But yeah, I'd never want to do that again. I'd have to be like strapped up, and ever since then, touch wood, I've been injury free so far, so it's working.
It's a more gaffer tape than MMA fighter at that point, but again, it's.
Yeah.
But I feel those sort of experiences are what gives you that understanding as to where the value comes from. Because again, even before training, you know full well that, oh, I guess if you do strength training, won't get as injured. But that only means so much. But again, having gone through your experiences, again, the wear and tear of training, full stop, jiu-jitsu, MMA, wrestling, all that kind of stuff, the grind. Like people say it almost in the terminology, oh, it's just training. No, it's the literal grind in your joints as well. It's everything. But again, the longevity. There's a lot in this. And when it comes to consistency, routine's a huge thing. Are you on for routine in regards of the same warm up every time you train, same warm up every time you compete? Is you that sort of thing you want for that kind of routine?
Yeah, I do agree with routine, but also at the same time, MMA is super weird, and you might not replicate that, at the venue and things like that. And I feel like you've got to be very open minded with MMA because I've luckily in my amateur career I've had so many different experiences with where I'm warming up and where I actually am. So like I've gone from literally being in like this little room behind a bar in a venue where it stunk of like onions and hot dogs being made in the kitchen, and then being in like this big room in Cage Warriors, or being in a massive room at IMAF, in Bahrain, in this 5-star hotel. So it's like everything's different, but it's like what my sports psychologist said, you just got to control the controllables, control what you can do. So I try and do that. So obviously when I go to the gym, I have my own, like before, I always get there early. Like I'm there, if training starts at 10, I'm there at 9:20. And I'm like, I've got my, foam rollers, my resistance bands, getting everything warmed up, opening up my hips with like, lacrosse balls and things like that. And then we do a standard warm up, but that's just to kind of get the heart rate up. It's more like your responsibility to get what you need sorted out, because one size doesn't fit all really with a warm up, does it? You might have some injuries and little niggles here, there, and everywhere. So yeah, I take that into my own responsibility. Like my routine is already set, and you just try and replicate that wherever you go. It's going to be different every time. So routine is good, but you've got to take responsibility for that, I think.
I like that a lot. And again, there's a few of these gems. I don't think you realize the knowledge bombs are dropping, and it's the taking responsibility for what you need to do. Like, albeit in the warm up, make sure your injuries are covered. But again, your progression is you.
Yeah.
You can only help yourself progress, and it's a bit of pill to swallow for a lot of people that they think just show up and you'll get better. No,
No,
that's a minimum.
It's very much you, isn't it? You know, and there's been times like I'm definitely not perfect. You know, there's been times where I've been absolutely knackered in bed and I'm like, I have to get up and wrestle now and things like that. And it's really hard. And, you know, nobody's perfect. Sometimes you do need to, you know, take that day off or whatever, but you've got to get back on it straight away. You can't, like you said before, these people who go, oh, I'm going to have a few months off, I'm going to get fat and I'm going to come back in. And that's on your head, you know. It's one. This happened not last week, the week before. Was my mum went out and the gas man came, and it was before I was going to the gym. And I was like, shit, I'm gonna be late, or I'm not gonna end up making it there. And then he was here for a while, but then when he left, I had like 20 minutes to get ready and get to the gym, and I could have easily went, I'll go tomorrow. Like, I'm not gonna have time, but I got in there, and it's that sense of accomplishment, you know, once you've done that. Because it's a really hard sport. Like, I don't care what anyone says, it's probably the hardest sport in the world. You know, getting up in the morning and getting punched in the head before, you know, you've had any breakfast is usually quite a hard thing to do. But you've got to have that drive, haven't you? You've got to have that self-control and just do it, basically. And it just, you know, it pays off. You know, you see people who are completely committed to the sport. Like Vucenic yesterday, how much it meant to him to win that belt. You know, he's put everything into it. That's the days that we kind of live for, isn't it? You know, once we've done all the hard work and it kind of, at the end of the day, it pays off.
Let's be careful with mentioning Jordan's world title win, because I might start crying and get emotional. Because again, being teammate and seeing what's gone on to that, it was a very, very powerful moment. But as to say, with again, we'll keep it on you, otherwise it will become a Jordan show, and I'm trying not to do that. I'm trying to keep it's non-biased.
Yeah.
With all these things, again, this is where I think this is really important for a lot of people to hear. And with your progression, your consistency is the real thing I'm after with this question. What gets you to the gym when you don't want to get there? What is your why per se?
My why, it is the fact that I just want to be a very, very good professional fighter. Like, I want to be the person that people want to tune in and watch and just think like, oh, you know, she's a normal girl. She just puts a lot of hard work in. She's good. You know, that's all it is. Like, I've always wanted to be not famous. Like, I'm not asked about that. Like, I don't want to be that, but I just want to be known for putting in the hard work and just being good at what she is. Like, I've always wanted to impress people with, well, not necessarily impress people. I just always wanted to show people that I've got good talent, like I've got good skills. Like, even back in the day, like I used to compete for school, no matter what it was. It don't even matter. It could have been rounders, football, basketball, whatever. And every time, without sounding big-headed, I am going to sound big-headed, but I don't mean to. But every time I went somewhere and compete for school or compete, you know, for teams I was on outside of school, they was like, she's good, like, or like, look at her. And, you know, people would come and speak to me after it, or, you know, they would for one example, actually, my friend went to do trials for Manchester City girls, and I didn't go. At the time, I wasn't a City fan, I was a United fan, and I was like, fuck, I'm not playing for them. I did play for Manchester United girls as well. I was like, I'm not bothered. So I went there and I was on the sideline, and I had a football with me, and she was playing, and the coaches were watching and whatever. And there was like 2 bars, like big bars on this fence, and I was curling the ball and getting it in between them each time, just on the sideline. And this guy came over to me, and I had like a bobby hat, and I was such a little boy when I was about 15. And he came over and he like startled me, and I was like, oh shit, like maybe I shouldn't have been playing football on the sideline. And he was like, do you want trials for City? I went, what? But I felt bad because obviously my friend was there to do that. And I was like, yeah, all right then. And then I went to it, played a match with them, and he was like, are you coming back? And I was like, nah. So I just ruined my football career at that moment when I said I'm not going back to City. But that's what I mean, is that I've always, even, you know, on the sidelines, I was, you know, impressing people with my skills. And that's all I want to do. I just want to be good at something. That's the best way to put it, is that I just want to be good at something. I want people to appreciate, you know, what I've put in there. And that is my why, is just getting up every day knowing that I'm going to get better if I keep going in. If I stay at home, I'm not getting better. If I stay at home, there's a girl in probably Czech Republic who's kicked the bag 350,000 times this morning and I've not. So it's like, I need to do that in order to get ahead of these other girls. So that's my why, I would say.
Now let me scratch the surface a bit more just on this one, because again, I'm going to get a bit Freudian with maybe a bit, I don't know, whatever else. Is it more impressing the people you love and respect to help give them like, this is what I'm capable of? Or is it more the naysayers and the people who sort of thought, okay, maybe she isn't all that?
I think
Who's it more, do you reckon?
it's everyone really. It's myself as well. It's, I have this like everyone has these battles in their head, especially as a fighter, because you're very much a perfectionist. I think when you want to be good at this stuff, and you go through absolutely everything, and it's very natural. Like I said, I've had a sports psychologist, and it's very natural to think about everything that can go wrong. And I do it, and I think it's kind of healthy to do that, because you can't be this, rainbows and butterflies. I'm going to go in there and everything's going to be absolutely perfect. You need to think about these other things, but I remember him saying, like, what is pressure? Like, where is this pressure coming from? And I always used to say, like, oh, I don't want to lose in front of people. But that's not what it was. It was, I don't want to lose. Like, I've always been a winner. Like, even back in the day, like I say, I've always wanted to win. I always wanted to, everything. Like, if it was competitive, I want to win it. Like, that's just my personality. We could be playing dodgeball as a warm up in the gym, and I don't want to get toga. I'm fucking, doing diving rolls to get out of the way, out of the way of the ball. Like, it's not that. It's just that once I've got an idea and once I've got something that I'm passionate about. So obviously, for the last 7 years, it's been MMA, 6, whatever, can't remember. It's been MMA. He's like, I want to prove to myself that I'm good at this sport, because I put everything into it. It's very easy to start having bad days and thinking, say, for example, and I say this to my mum all the time, is that I'll be in the gym and I might have a sparring session where I'm like lightning fast, I'm not getting hit. But then the next day I'm being taken down and getting, elbowed in the head for the full round, and it's like, I'm shit, but I'm not, it's one of those battles. So it's more for me is like, I want to win and prove how good I am for myself, because that's very comforting for me. Like, there's nothing more that I like than winning, and then everybody, cheering and saying like how good it was. I'm not that I've got an ego. Like, I've lost before. I've lost 4 times. It's not the end of the world, but it's like the best feeling in the world. It's like the biggest drug in the world is to win, I say. And I get a massive dump after I win. It comes falling back down, and I've got to climb and get that again. And it's that, the grind that they call it. It's like, it's great. It's just like this never-ending circle of winning, back to the beginning, winning, back to the beginning, and it's addictive.
Again, there's so much in this. I'm sorry,
I just keep talking.
No, don't apologize. Just get comfy. That's all I'm going to say. I'm going to be here a while. That's fine. When it comes to facing the loss, accepting it, and growing from it, what is your process? So say you lost your fight. I'm not sure which one. Then I won the one IMAF one, Cassandra, I think her name was.
Yeah.
Decision, like processing that kind of the loss. Again, having the reputation you've had before for like, always being taken as read, oh, you're going to win anyway. No point competing. You're already there. You already won it. Like to have that to then lose. How do you then face that and accept that again? Because it's so against the, I don't know.
Yeah. It's hard, obviously. Like, you put a lot into it, and you lose. And but like I say, I was saying this yesterday. Someone's got to lose, and it's not like you want to lose. It's it's the last thing on your mind. But you can't let that. I think there's a fine line, because you see a lot of people who lose and they're not bothered about it, and I think that's quite a dangerous thing, because then you accept the fact that loss is fine. And I heard something on the radio actually yesterday, and I just went mad. Like, to my mum, we was driving. I can't remember who we were driving to, and some like advert came on the radio saying that we should accept failure. Like, a failure's our friend, it said. And I was like, I don't know whether I agree with that. I think that's a bit weird. I can understand what they're trying to say, is that it's not, it's not a bad thing. You can carry on, but I'm not one to say that if you fail, oh no, it's absolutely fine. Just accept it. You've got to work on things. You've got to figure out what you did wrong, and that's all I do. Is so obviously I lost. I rewatched the fight. Everybody who watched it, even Matt, like Matt is a very, very straight up person. If he told me that I did absolute shit and there's a lot to work on, then I'd be like, fair enough, I've got to work on this. But he even thought, he was like, I honestly thought you won. Like, watching it, he had to watch it from home, because obviously I was in Bahrain. And it's just one of those things where I was like, right, I lost. I cannot dispute it. It's not coming off my record. That's it. And I see it as, so far, I feel like I've only lost once in in my head, like, you know, when you see people like, I'm undefeated in my head. I'm not undefeated in my head, but I honestly feel that I've only lost once, and that was to Dakota, because she played a very good game plan and she won. She won me fair and square. But the other 3 decision, you know, losses or split decisions, whatever they were, deep down, because I know I felt like I won. It's like, I'll just carry on. I'm not going to hold on to it. I can't change it. But everyone else thinks I've won. So it's like, go and watch it. You know, you might see my record is 6-4, you know, 6 wins, 4 decision losses. But it doesn't mean anything, especially, you know, at amateur. I think I would probably address, you know, if I did lose at pro level, I would probably address it slightly differently, because it's, you know, very much more detrimental to what my future would be. But it's one of those things, you just look at what you've done wrong, pick out what you've also done right as well, because I think a lot of people, when they lose, they go, my God, what did I do wrong? But look at what you did right as well, and just fix it. Just work on that. So, for example, one of the things that was a common occurrence was, because I like to strike, was they got hold of me and they kept me against the fence. So I addressed that. I was like, right, well, I need to figure out how to get my ass off the fence, basically. And that's what we've been doing, obviously, with Abdul as well, because it's the same, you know, stature as me. We've been doing a lot of close cage work, and Matt's obviously put it into the training plan as well. And we do a lot of like winner stays on the round. So that like wording is, you want to be the winner. Don't, it's not like you want to win in sparring, but because of these positional rounds, is you don't want to be the one that's constantly not on the wall, because you keep, you know, losing, you keep getting turned off, and you're on there. So that's what we do, is we just we break everything down like that and work on it. Or what I also do as well is, like I said, if I'm been in a position that I'm not very good in, I would make someone start in that position. So I'd go like, right, well, I'll start on the ball and I'll see if I can get off. You know, if you take me down, tough, I'm taken down, but I want to start in that position, so I have to physically get out and get that in my head. So that's how we would accept losses. We wouldn't just dwell on it for, you know, weeks and then come back.
So with that answer, there's the things I like about it, but it sounds very much, okay, this is something I've learned. And again, the words are fantastic, but again, I think the weight behind is where the value really is. And there's a few things with that. Is when I asked you earlier about the pro career being on the radar, is that's where the perspective for these amateur losses really come into the conversation. Because again, if you're training for an amateur career, a loss in an amateur career is devastating. If you're training for a pro career, a loss in an amateur career is a pretty good thing, because okay, I got that out of the way early. And this is why I like the way you're articulating certain things. Again, you're going about controllables and sort of stoic sort of principles. And again, we'll go into the psychologist in a minute, but it's just interesting the way you're articulating that more matter of fact and a very personal thing. And I like the way you've done that. And even little thing you said there, winner stays on, that yes, winning sparring is one thing, but again, it's, I want to win these rounds still. Ego is definitely in the radar. Everyone's got an ego. Let's say it's not. It's 100%. Like
Definitely.
you wouldn't challenge where you are to where you want to be if you didn't believe in yourself a bit more. Full stop. Call it what you want. Call it ego. Call it anything you want. But it's why you are where you are now versus where you were when you started.
Yeah, and that's why I said there's a fine line, isn't there? You know, you can't love it to a point where you're really not bothered if you lose, because then what's the point? You know, it's a competition. Like, people forget that it's a competition. It's not just a fight. You don't have to be a very angry person and want to kill someone to fight. It's entertainment as well. As you need to understand that, like, it's entertainment. You need to put on a show, and you also want to win. And there's you've got your perks to winning. Obviously, you've got money, you've got all the other stuff, you know, getting the bigger fights and things like that. And that's it. Is like you say, like Carl, you know, we obviously know Carl Tanswell is obviously an amazing coach, and he very much works on that as well, with saying that you want to be the guy who's winning the rounds in sparring, because you need to spar the way you're going to fight. So you know, that's what I've tried to kind of work now, is that I used to, in sparring, was stay safe. Like, you know, imagine it's a fight, but imagine it against like a really aggressive opponent, because the guys don't take it easy. You know, I'm a fighter at the end of the day. Like, they think that they're not going to, you know, pussyfoot around me because I'm not going to learn anything. So I used to be very like passive, like just kind of move my head, trying to get out of the way. But now I'm trying to win those rounds. Like, I'm trying to get in on the takedown. I'm trying to, you know, hit on the break and win those little things. And that's just, I think that's just how it should be, really. Not necessarily ego. I don't really know how to explain what it is, because it's not like if I get hit, I'm like, oh, what a dick, like I can't believe I've been hit. And it's like a learning process, isn't it? But it's like a dress rehearsal before, you know, you have to go out and do it properly. So yeah, that's my take on that.
I like the term rehearsal though. I like the way it's, again, I think that's a lot more poignant than I think you realize. Again, you've got quite a few of these, and the fact it's practicing what you're already going to do. You're practicing how it's going to feel. Again, dress rehearsal, even so much so you're trying to recreate the moment. So
Yeah.
I like the intricacies of why that works, and again, that's really interesting. And when it came to the psychologist sort of side of things, there's a key thing with our sponsors, the English Hypnotist, little plug there, about the language you use when you sort of describe certain things. Again, like pressures, anxieties, no, you're excited, that kind of stuff. What was the real reason for you to take on a psychologist on board, and what did you feel it really added to your game?
Yeah, I took it on because it's like I've got a mind that very much runs away with myself. Like I can think about a million different things in one thing, and I think it's just because I've got quite an inquisitive mind and I'm quite imaginative. So I feel like what I was doing was I was focusing so much on other people that I totally forgot about what I was capable of. So actually, I think it might have been after the Dakota fight. I think now it might have been right, because then I think I went to Rome like 3 weeks after that, which I don't think I should have, and I lost again. But what happened was I knew obviously I mean, I hate talking about this fight because it's obviously in the past, but she was very much good. You know, she was a good striker. She was a professional Muay Thai kickboxer. So I focused more on the fact that she's either going to want to clinch me or she's going to try and like kick me or knee me. So I focused so much on that I completely forgot that I could hit her as well, and completely forgot that I could take her down. And it was like in the second round, I switched on and was like, what the fuck am I doing? So then I actually got her down in that round and things like that. And then after that fight, obviously it was a great fight. It was one of those fights that everybody started to know who I was, because it was like, shit, like that was a really good fight, and you know, you're tough, blah blah blah. But I thought to myself, no, that was terrible, because I completely wasn't myself. I was more worried about what she's going to do than I didn't even get my game plan off. You know, I worked really hard throughout this not training camp, but you know, throughout the few weeks leading up to the fight to win the fight, and I didn't, because I was more bothered about her. So he was very good with kind of getting to grips with that, and you know, the whole like cognitive dissonance and things like that, and working on what I want to control, what I can control, should I say. And he was very much big on, you know, the whole venue stuff, like the smells, the temperature, you know, what it looks like, what my workout's going to be, everything like that, what your warm-up's going to be, what you're going to do when you get in there, like all those types of things. And that massively helped, because like I say, I could use my mind positively then, because your mind's it's a brutal thing sometimes. Like you say, you can talk yourself out of anything, can't you? So it's one of those tools that I thought was a massive thing, because now, like ever since then, I'd get, you know, a fight booked, and then I'd be thinking straight away, but positively, what I want to do, like what the cage feels like, you know, the walking up there, absolutely everything, you know, what the crowd would sound like and things. So that's why I got it. It wasn't that felt like I was lacking in anything. It was just that I wasn't using my brain in the correct way, because it's still a mental game more than it is a physical game. So that's why I hired him for that.
It's so hard to articulate that value, because when you're, you know, doing the physical things, you think, okay, if I just do X, Y, and Z, I'm going to be fight ready, no problem. But again, if you don't show up, it's all well and good, all the double legs you've been drilling, but if you don't think, oh shit, I don't deserve this, or I'm not in a certain position to get X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, it's the very. Sorry, was you going to carry on then?
Just emphasizing the point, really. But yeah, carry on.
Yeah, I think, like you say, the mental aspect of it is so big, because I figured this out as well with my last fight and in fact, no, it was Cowboy Cerrone that made me realize this slight thing that I had in my head. Was he was saying that he's not bothered about fighting. Fighting does not scare him. It's gassing out that scares him. That's what he's terrified of, and that I resonate with that, because when I'm in the back, I absolutely hate warming up. Hitting the pads. I hate. Like, you could ask Matt. Like, Matt is like, hit this, and I go, right, that's enough, because I feel that if I start hitting the pads, I'm going to gas out, and I'm going to get in there and I'm not going to be able to throw a punch. That was my absolute like fear. But then Matt was like, that isn't true. He said, you're not going to gas out hitting pads. He was like, you need to switch it on by it's that click in your brain. So if I'm just tapping pads and I'm just moving, I'm not getting my head into that game of I'm going to hit someone hard, in the next, 10, 15 minutes. I need to get them punches going, like aggressive. I need to get that mood switched on in my head. And that's very true, because I figured out that I kind of not weather the storm in the first round. I kind of a little bit slower in the first round because I'm thinking about, I don't want to gas out, there's 3 rounds or there's 5 rounds, because obviously I got the championship belt on Budo. So my other fights were 5 rounds. But then I would turn it around in the next round and I would beat him. But it's like, I need to be switched on from the off. So that's another thing that's been into my, my mental game now. Is Matt's very good with that, because he gets us to spar very early in the morning. So it's like, you need to switch on. So it's almost like you get in there and we're sparring. And I find it hard because, like I say, I need to be switched on, but then that's helped me massively as well. So it's there's a lot of stuff involved in training and fighting that you don't actually realize until something clicks with you.
See, part of me likes the early morning sparring, get it done for a practical point of view, but fight simulation, I can't remember, I think it's Harry Hardwick told me this, that they do a thing where they have a sparring session, but what they'll do sometimes, they'll keep it so fight simulation, they'll just sort of leave you in a room for ages and then not talk to you, and then just go, you're fighting in 5 minutes, like just get in the cage. That's sort of, again, as much as getting switched on is fantastic, I can't help but feel that fight shows don't have the same kind of luxury. It's not as not organized, but don't get quite the.
It is crazy. Like I feel like I've been, although I've only had 10 amateur fights, it's a lot more than some people have before they turn pro. And I feel like my experiences have come like a long way, because going abroad as well to fight at a young age, it's like detrimental, I think, because you're out of your comfort zone completely. You don't know, like one of the things that adds to it, what people don't understand, is your food. When you're over there, you're in a foreign country. You're not going to Aldi and getting what you usually do, on fight week, or you usually do before fight off or refueling. That's an added thing to add on to there. And the heat difference. I live in Manchester. It's freezing all the time. It's raining, and next minute I'm in 40-degree heat in Bahrain, trying to figure out where I can get some tuna from. It's like they're really good experiences. Like say everything's different, and then you're getting put in a room with like 50 other fighters warming up, and it's sweaty, it's gross. The next minute the guy runs in and goes, right, you're on, and you think, I'm on now. You've not even, and then you're running out, up the little ramp onto the thing to go and fight. And there was one instance that happened in Rome at the European Championships. Was the workout room, the warm-up room was absolutely boiling. No doors were open. It was June, I think it was, in Rome, so it's scalding outside. It's absolutely boiling, and people were fainting. People were passing out, and I was hitting pads. And like I said, I was nervous of getting fatigued, but I could barely lift my arms up. I was like, this is so hot. Like I felt like I was in an oven. And then I went out, and that fight, I lost a decision, which I also thought, again, like I won, but there's no point saying that. But that makes a massive difference. So it's like, I should have done something slightly different on that. I should have, gone outside, or I should have told somebody that it's way too hot in that room. It's taking responsibility for your safety as well, because they clearly didn't, they didn't think about it. But like I say, them things have helped me in my career now, because I've already experienced the weird workout rooms, the flying to somewhere else, the not knowing what your weight's like, living off rice cakes for the week because you think you're going to be overweight and things like that. So that, it's like I've already done it. So when I do have to fly somewhere, to fight, it's like I've done that before. I've been in that position, so it shouldn't be as scary. Should I say?
The fish and the rice cakes. I mean, that's always the fighter diet as a rule, isn't it?
Yeah.
Speak of mindset in Manchester area, got Mr. Good old Stapes. His thing, I swear by, is still experiences very different things. And again, if you've got your tangible experience that when I was in X, Y, and Z, I can remember how I dealt with that, what the influence I had, and then you can then adapt that and so on and so forth. And I love that. And I like the way you're sort of saying, okay, yes, this happened here, but I need to learn. If I'm in a similar position, I need to make sure I'm the one proactively changing this. Otherwise, it's going to be the same kind of result. May not be the fight verbatim as such, but again, it's very much so. This is inconvenient. This caused a problem. Now I know to change it next time. And that's invaluable. Again, there's so much in this. One question I've got for you: do you journal at all when you're having these kind of like, I don't know, your mind's going down rabbit holes of things you're doubting, things you're concerned about? Do you note that down at all?
I used to, but I am a little bit lazy with that type of stuff as well, because I kind of either forget I wrote it down or I just forget to write it down. But what I do is when I hear certain things that I resonate with, or not necessarily quotes, but just what certain people have said, like I'll just write it down and then I'll go back to it. And like my mum said something this was about a month ago actually. She was saying like, the people that say something's impossible aren't willing to try and do it. And I was like, oh, I like that. So like I wrote it down and I was reading. Yeah, I do try and read quite a lot of books, not like these self-help books. I do agree with them and I do like them, but I don't want somebody else to kind of tell me how to live my life. I need to figure it out. Like I say with the experiences, and you find out what works and what doesn't. And one of the books was Ollie Ollerton Breakpoint book, and there was certain things that he said in there, and he was saying like to embrace pain, like not pain, but to embrace the fact that you're feeling pain, like in the gym, like you've been in a bad position, and to embrace that, like it's a good feeling knowing that you can get out of that situation, and next time you know what it feels like, you're going to get out of that, you're going to avoid that situation. So I don't necessarily journal and write things down like how I feel and things like that, but I mean I probably should, but I do write things down that I feel that kind of boost me, or I resonate with, like little short things. My attention span sometimes I don't really like reading long books, but I'll take stuff out of it, if that makes sense, that I want.
Definitely. And again, I like that a lot because I keep saying that because I do. And the reason why this specific thing resonates with me is reading all these books, doing all this sort of stuff. Again, it's a lot of me trying to lean it out. Again, what are you taking from this? Why do you need to know the intricacies about Ollie Ollerton's like monkey trauma, which is a very strange part of the book? I keeps talking about it. It's very uncomfortable. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a good book, but I don't. Him getting savaged by monkeys a bit strange. But anyway,
I think he's just saying, isn't he, that there's got to be a time in your life, like you almost like people are forged in fire. I think what I got from it is that he had this traumatic experience and he got himself out of it. Like, instead of, he could have just accepted that this monkey's just going to rip his throat out. He's only a tiny kid and he could have just frozen. I think what he's getting at is fight or flight, isn't it? Really?
Exactly that.
I think it's just a different way of putting it, and some people need to hear it in a different way. And I think that's what it is. I think fight or flight's a massive thing in MMA. I think a lot of people think they're a fighter until it gets rough, and next minute like they're curled up and they give up. And sometimes they could be very seriously hurt. But I've been in fights where I could have easily give up, and no one would have known, only myself. And I've had this conversation with Matt, is that I couldn't ever give up, because it would be me that would know. And that would like eat away at me. I'd hate that. Like going back to the Dakota fight, I got hit in the first round with some of the worst knees I've ever felt in my life. I genuinely thought, fucking hell, I'm going to have internal bleeding. And then I was against the fence and I thought, shit, like I can't even breathe. And then her mum was there, like her mum's a coach, and she went, she's done. And I was like, no, I'm not. Because I thought, it's like type of fight or flight. Like I could have easily gone, oh, drop down, and people have gone, oh, it's all right, fuck that. I don't want that. Like I said, I'm the only one that would know I've gone, yeah, I'm bowing out. So it's that fight or flight thing. I think it's within you. Like Saul Rogers, I don't know whether you follow him, he put on about people have this fighter in them, like it's born, it's there. And I agree with that. I think it's, you've either got it or you haven't. And some people, like you say, some fighters might have come from like a jiu-jitsu background and always want to, get on the floor and tie them up and things like that. But when they get dragged through a fight, it's like, are they gonna last, or is this girl gonna last? And you see with Ashley Yoder and Angela Hill, did you watch that fight?
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that Yoder isn't a fighter, but what I'm saying is there's a difference between, like, you could hit Angela and she'll fucking run at you and she'll still want to stay in there, whereas Yoder kept turning away and almost like shying away from it and survived. And it's like, I don't want to do that. I want to be, you've got to keep that fight going instead of wanting to run away. So don't really know where I'm going with that, but
no, but again, there's a few points with that I want to sort of note out, because again, you'll get people who are martial artists, you get people who are athletes, people who are fighters, and so on and so forth. That's their kind of their version of their craft. And again, that's even a very lump sum kind of thing because there's different elements of certain things. And again, it's a very weird one to try and explain. That there are some shots you'll take and you'll eat them like they're breakfast. There's some shots you'll take and God, I'm gonna just die. Is this the worst thing's ever happened to anyone ever? But there's something in between, and then there's that weird bit in your own internally where you're like, okay, this is where I'm fine. I'm okay. And again, it's that gauging point where that should have dropped me. That should have done this, that, and the other. But I'm tougher than that. But on the
Yeah.
other side, I could have eaten that shot, but now I'm already out on the canvas. And it's
Yeah.
understanding your boiling point of your limits and your restrictions. And any point I'm wrong, feel free to jump in. But again, with this, I like the way you're, I don't know, explaining that point you're getting to. And this is why people who compete, people who put themselves on that platform, where you said something about if people who say things are impossible aren't willing to try it, in the same vein that these are only dreams until you go after them, in the same vein, you know, you going pro sounds crazy until you're actually pro and you've done it and like, oh shit, look, she actually did it. Like, again, this is why I like this conversation. This is why I like the way you're explaining the different perspectives of your development, different perspectives of your management of these things. And again, from someone else who ever thinks everything has ever existed, I like the way you're explaining how you're managing that. And again, yourself now on the sofa talking about this with me versus you with a fight coming up 2 weeks out thinking shit, have I done enough? It's a very different person. But again, at least when you're in a rational sense of mind, you know, you've got your head screwed on still.
Yeah. And like you said, like there's a balance, isn't there? You can't be, and this is where you see different types of fighters. So you can have the very aggressive fighter who will go out and 9 times out of 10 he'll win on that. But then all of a sudden you get a calm fighter who can kind of, you know, almost like, you know, mesmerize the bull and kind of calm him, like not calm him down, but like kind of figure him out. And the next minute he's the one on his back because he's been the more, you know, calm fighter. And then you've got obviously the ones who are too calm, who come up against somebody who, you know, figures them out like that, or the one that just wants to take it to the floor, that type of thing. You need to have, I think, a full range of that. And I think that's what counts as a mixed martial artist is obviously you've got to have the aggression first because, you know, you need to be aggressive at some points. You need to have the calmness as well because you need to be calm under pressure. You obviously need to have the killer instinct and all the other things mixed together. I'm not just saying that, you know, jiu-jitsu fighters aren't a good fighter. I'm not saying that at all. But if they have everything together and that's their game plan to take it to the floor, then fair enough. But I think if you lack one of those things or 2 of those things, then somebody will find that out, you know, eventually. And that's what I want to work on is obviously balancing that, being a full mixed martial artist, not I'm coming in, I'm angry, I just want to fight, or I just want to grab hold of this guy, I don't want to get hit. Like I want to embrace absolutely everything, you know, that's going on. And I think you see that, like you say, I love watching Valentina Shevchenko because I feel she's got an absolute balance of everything. You know, she's got a great IQ, the striking's amazing. You think, oh shit, she's going to level me, but next minute she's like suplexed you onto your head, and then she's armbarring you, and it's like, how do you work those people out? So that's what I mean by, you know, the fighter instinct and the martial artist, and everything has to be together. It's not like one or the other. I personally think anyway, which is what I'm working on.
I mean, that is the whole knowledge versus application, though, isn't it? Because you can get people who are quote unquote technical, which I used to try and use that nice little umbrella, which wasn't the same thing. And again, versus applying certain things. Because again, you get people like Gaethje, for example, with controlled chaos, where it's yes, it's wild, just as aggressive, but again, it's thought out to an extent. Debatable, but again, he says it's thought out, it's his business. But again, it's just understanding how you can apply your style and what works for you. Because again, if you're like a Wonderboy Thompson, for example, he's very methodical, very much a fighter, but in the same very sort of counter fighter, very long, very rangy, very technical. And again, it's not so much coming forward and trying to take your head off, but again, if you're at the wrong angle, he's still going to not hesitate to, you know, sleep you. But the point with this is none of these are wrong. None of these are better than the other. But again, it's that whole, not even a chess match. It's very much some things work, some things don't. There's no consistent theme as to which one works when. That's kind of the best part, I think.
I think that's why they say, don't these like styles make fights, because that's why MMA maths doesn't make sense, because it's like that guy beat that guy, but that guy just went and beat that guy, and it's like there's so many different avenues that it takes, and that's why it's super hard, isn't it? Like in the rankings to kind of figure out who should be fighting who, because you could, you know, the championship would change hands all the time, wouldn't it? You know, because styles change, make fights. So yeah, I just think being that all round like Michael Chandler, for example, I think he's a very all-round person. I think that the people who are good champions are the all-round fighters, like not necessarily the ones that are, for example, just a striker or just a grappler. Like they're all like Khabib. Everybody sleeps on his striking, yet he dropped McGregor. He fucking pressured Gaethje. He's got everything in that arsenal. But like I said, if he's got everything, he can work one thing that he wants. Everyone knows he wants to take you down, but if you keep thinking he wants to take you down, he's going to try and take your head off at the same time. So I just love that all round fighter type feel.
And that's exactly the point. And this is why when people say about Khabib striking, saying his striking works how well it does, people fear his takedown so much. That level change, those fakes have got so much more weight because you're so scared. And I love that as well. Just a few questions to sort of leave you on. These are ones I'm going to sort of roll out to everyone, at least competitors like yourself, to try and get an insight in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a scenario. You're warming up for your next fight, and in walks you from after the fight. You're seeing yourself warm up, seeing yourself panicking. What do you say to yourself before you make the walk to keep you in a good headspace?
I would say, and this is what I've said before, is you've chose to be there. So I think that's what people need to understand. And I've said that to some people in the back room as well, is that, when I've seen people a little bit like wide-eyed, especially if they're having a debut or maybe not even having the debut, but they're a bit wide-eyed, but like, just remember, like, you wanted to be here, you've trained, this is what the end result is. Like, this is, this is what you trained for, because there's a lot of people who are panicking in the back room and think, shit, I don't want to do it. Then you need to, have a good word with yourself and realize, is it something that you do want to do? So I think that's what I would say is this is what you've wanted. Nobody's forced you to be here. You've got to, get in gear and get going, basically.
Fantastic. This one's a bit of a fun one. So post win, belt around your waist, what's on your delivery order? What's in your shopping cart? What are you talking?
It's usually, it's quite funny. I absolutely am such a starver, like leading up to the fight. Like I have such a bad relationship with food on the week of the fight, thinking I'm going to eat this, I'm going to eat that, I'm going to eat that. But then once I've won, it's just, that's enough. Like I ordered my last fight, and not my last fight. There was one fight that I had near Christmas time, and Papa John's had a Christmas dinner pizza, and I was obsessing about it. I was like, I need to get it, and I got it, and I didn't eat it.
Oh.
I didn't eat a bit of it. I don't eat after the fight. Like it takes me like a day to get over the fact that I've won, and the adrenaline comes back down and I'm back to normal. Like I get it, and I'm like, yeah, and then I go, nah, I don't want it. But I'd eat something sweet, like I'd probably have like cookie dough or something like that. That helps me.
Take the edge off. But
Yeah.
again, it's one of them ones that sort of adrenaline dump everything else that's got into it, because that moment is so pivotal, regardless of result. It's everything's been invested in it. Again, it's like there's no way of deceiving.
Really at that point, it's just like, yeah. And the next day, I'll probably eat everything in sight. So,
last question for you: day one beginner walks in the gym. They see what you've achieved so far and what you're going to go on to achieve. They say, what can I do to get as far as I can get? What is the soundbite, reference point, rule of thumb you give them to go on along with?
I'd probably say do it for you, because at first I was training to, like I said, impress other people and make sure that I look good in front of people, whereas now I do it fully for myself. And that's what I would say is, go, if you're enjoying it, keep going, stay consistent. If you're only doing it to look hard or impress others, it's not going to be the thing that you're going to want to do. You want to get up every day like it's the best job of your life. You love it, you want to go there. And if you don't want to do it anymore, then just don't force yourself, because you won't put everything that you want into it.
Fantastic. Love that. And before we let people go, where can people find you on social media?
So Instagram, I don't really use Facebook anymore, so it's at SteedMMA_ on the end.
Cool. Any sponsors you want to shout out?
Yes, I've got a few actually. So I've got XS Guard, my mouth guards. I've got CH Productions, Connor Halliday, CBD Life, Total Sports Rehab, George Holland, and Hard Life Fightwear, and also PH View as well, Alkaline Water. So all of those guys, thank you very much for the help.
And be sure to check out our podcast sponsor, The English Hypnotist. Again, we're speaking about this now, about psychology and how it can really affect everything you do. Definitely worth a conversation with Richard Hart, top boy. Help support the podcast. And again, when it comes to sponsors, regardless if it's mine, other fighters like Levi's, if you support their sponsors, they can see they can support fighters and make it financially viable. Albeit if it's placing orders, if it's likes, shares, this, that, and they show engagement. Again, it makes the world of difference. It all adds up. Be sure to check out Fisticuffs podcast on all streaming platforms or social media platforms. Rash guards and shorts are in. We've got new shorts on the way, hybrid ones. So, keep an eye out and stay safe and keep growing.